even if everybody's lying on the floor and I can't see everybody. But so today I wanted to spend a little more time talking just to shift sort of the intention of what I think is important on this topic of darkness. So darkness in the tradition of yoga, the Sanskrit word might be dukkha. So this concept of dukkha, darkness. So, you're in very good company if darkness is something that comes in and out of your life. When you look at all of the ancient teachings, it's very much there. In fact, in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, the second chapter, which talks about practice, says essentially, the reason we practice is because we suffer. And if you're not suffering, then yoga is of no use to you. So the idea being that if you don't suffer, either you're completely free of the powers of this world to impact you, or you're delusional. And either way, yoga is not going to help you. So we, the first session together, we sort of looked at how we can utilize these techniques. The techniques of yoga, they manipulate our physiology. They can change how we feel. And so we can use techniques of yoga to sort of lift the body up. We can use techniques of yoga to nurture and calm and bring some feeling of stability to the body. Last week, we used this image of joy and cultivating the fact that most of us, I think all of us here, have had moments in our life with joy, that we have felt joy. We can think in our mind and have a memory of joy and how that may have felt, and use that to help us at times when things are a bit darker. And I even creating things is one of my sources of joy. So we did an image with a golden ball with the word joy on it. It's backwards in the camera here, but this was what I made this week to remind me of this practice of bringing joy through the body. But all of these approaches to practice make some pretty big assumptions. Joy is, the way I think of this word and what it embodies is, joy is a response that we have to something that touches our heart. And it's, really our body responds, we feel that sense of joy. Whereas the concept of happiness is more like a measure of our capacity to experience joy. So when there are times of darkness, we may find that our capacity to feel joy is diminished, is less. And so, with these exercises, we do this thing to feel better, we do this thing to change, we do these things. There's a very ableist assumption in that approach to practice, that we have the capacity to move ourselves, to shift ourselves, which may not be the case. And that we have the capacity to really pull up and utilize this sensation of joy, which may not be the case. And, in our culture, if we say something like making friends with darkness or making friends with our suffering, many people see that as sort of a surrender or a giving up or being overwhelmed by it. Whereas what I'm coming to in this idea is less of that. It's first of all recognizing that we're not always able to do a practice to change something that we're experiencing. And if that's the case, it's not necessarily our fault. And even when you look at the teachings on yoga, there's a concept of suffering. And I've seen many particularly modern interpretations of the teachings of saying, you change your mindset and you change your suffering, and there's an implication that it's all within your control. But what the ancient teachings say is, some of your suffering may be about you, and some of it has nothing to do with you, and it's nothing you can change. And so, these practices have the capacity to sometimes avoid suffering, but it's not about avoiding suffering. And, there's a fine line between using these practices to support us and bring us into balance, and using these practices to avoid feeling the suffering that is happening in our lives. And so, I can't give any guidance on how to know which is which. There's professionals in the world like Melanie who can help with that. But just to recognize that darkness and suffering is very much a part of our human experience. And some of that darkness may teach us nothing, honestly. It doesn't all have to be a lesson. Some of that darkness can be a guide for us. In the example, the inspiration for this series of seasonal effectiveness disorder. So when the darkness in the days changes, it has a physiological impact on our system, which can change how we perceive reality and how we respond to reality. Yoga can be very useful in those times because it can help manipulate our physiology so it minimizes the impact of that. But it doesn't mean it makes it go away. But what we can start to feel if these dark feelings begin to arise, or dark thoughts begin to arise at a particular time of the year, you can start to see the pattern. And so when the darkness arises within us at a particular time of year, it becomes for us the teacher to wake up and say, oh, wait, I know what's happening. And if you have practices that support you through that time, then you know when to utilize them. So it becomes like an alarm clock for us to wake up to see what we can change. And so that's sort of what I'm touching on with this idea of darkness. And I even looked at the lyrics of the song, The Sound of Silence, it starts with these lines: hello, darkness, my old friend. It's nice to be with you again, or talk with you again. And it's a song about the silence between people, but even within ourselves. So the inability to express the suffering within us to other people is the general theme of the song. So this concept is very much like that we the conversation is only within ourselves in this instance, but that we can acknowledge when pain or unhappiness, sadness or distress is there, without having to push it away or always distract from it. So in the context of these movement practices, breathing practices, there's always the background of what is. And so if there's a darkness there, and turning on a yoga practice, from your favorite teacher isn't what you need, just know that whatever it is that you can do for yourself is valid. It is part of yoga. And the first sutra in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali is very simple. It just says Atha Yoga Nushasanam. Atha means now. And what it's saying is, now we begin again. And so there's an acknowledgement that we're not always going to be in this place where the world around us tells us we should be. There's very much a pressure, I find, to perform happiness for the sake of others. And in this space of practice, there's space that there's no need to perform happiness. Happiness is just the capacity to feel joy. And if that capacity is not so high at this moment, there's no need to pretend. we just come back to now. And maybe in particularly dark times, just coming back to now, that might be the practice. This is the foundation of what's been called mindfulness practice. Just coming back to now is a slight little manipulation of the physiology, that the thoughts are not here or there or here or there, that there's just a moment. And in times of particular darkness, that may be all we have to give ourselves. And like we said last week with Lena, that sometimes the hardest part of practice is that step, to show up now. And so honor that when you come, here. You could do anything with this hour of time, but you've chosen to come together in reflection and contemplation on these topics, which are topics just about your own human experience. So that is a moment of coming to now. So with that sort of intention, let's come into the sensations of the body again. So wherever you are, sitting or lying down, and this gesture with the hands on the heart and the belly, I've taken a lot of refuge in this gesture, this touching with the hands. So using, the physiology, the reality that there's so many nerve endings in these little fingertips we have, that it becomes hard to ignore when we touch the fingertips to our body. So just feel the body. I'm just going to turn on a clock here just so I can be mindful of the time passing. And as you like, begin perhaps to feel the breath moving in and out. And reflect for a moment when you are feeling or living through a time of darkness. Notice the sensations that arise in your body. And I know some of us now, just knowing the stories of many of us here, living through some challenging times at the moment. Notice where those challenging times sit in your body. Is there a tightness in the chest, shoulders, neck, low back, stomach? And again, this comes to this idea of acceptance of this moment. So if there are these sensations in your body because you are living through and moving through some challenging times, just let those sensations be there without having to change them or fix them. This is just your body's way of helping carry you through. See if the energy, the clarity is there to deepen the breath. And as we talk of these themes, what's interesting for me in these teachings in the Yoga Sutras is that there is no intention of practice to end suffering or to cheer up. The only intention is to see reality as it is, which I think is great. For an anxious mind, it's not about me or my fears. It's just about what is. And sometimes we just have to breathe through what is and take the actions that are best in the moment. Sometimes we have the opportunity to change what's happening, and sometimes not. And when we understand the situation we are in, Makes it just a little bit easier to move through it. So we're going to start with the hands, both hands now to the low belly. This mantra we've used a few times here. Those, Candy, you know this well from Mirka. Just bringing peace in the body, peace in the emotions, and peace in the thoughts. So when you're ready, we're going to inhale the arms open. Exhale. Peace in my body. Again, inhale. Back to the belly. Peace in my body. Again. Peace in my body. Pause a moment. Hands to the heart. Inhale, open. Peace in my emotion. Inhale. Peace in my emotion. Inhale. Peace in my emotion. Pause a moment. And then to the third eye, visualization, a symbol of the thoughts. Inhale. Peace in my thoughts. Inhale. Peace in my thoughts. Peace in my thoughts. Pause a moment. The arms come down. And just noticing body, emotions, thoughts. 3 aspects of our being that are constantly changing. The body today is not the body of yesterday. The emotions of now are not the emotions of the past. The thoughts now are not thoughts of the past. Let's begin on the floor today. So as you feel ready, come down. Let's start on the back. So take a moment and just notice the sensation of your back against the floor. Notice the sensations of the feet on the floor. Let the knees be bent, soles of the feet on the floor. And begin to breathe again. So either a long, deep, conscious breath, or if the body needs a more gentle rhythm of breathing, just move with a more natural breath. But activating the deep breathing when we can is one of the tools, the primary tools we have of really shifting the body to help the thoughts and emotions come into clarity. So very slowly we'll come into this Dvipada Pitta in this little bridge, but do it sort of piece by piece. So maybe the first breath in, just sort of tipping the pelvis, breath out, let the pelvis come back towards the floor. And maybe the next inhale, pelvis lifts off the floor and back down. So just slowly approach the posture, one lift at a time, and then unwind the spine back to the floor. Each inhale a little bit higher. Be mindful of the impact on the neck and shoulders. So as we approach it slowly, particularly if you're a person who carries some tension in the shoulders, neck, this gives you the chance to sort of gently and respectfully feel how high is appropriate for your neck and shoulders, hips and pelvis. And just flowing with the rhythm of your own breath, inhaling up and exhaling down. Since we're all longtime practitioners here, continue moving with any variation you like. If you'd like to introduce movement of the hands or arms, feel free. You can continue to do this dynamically up and down a few times, or if you like, stay a little bit longer in the back bending posture and feel the muscles in the back of the body engaging and working. So just explore this posture for a few more breaths, dynamically or holding the posture. Keep the breath flowing. And then as you come down, we'll hug the knees in. You can either do Apanasana, so gently pulling the knees toward you on exhale, letting them move away on inhale, or you can rock side to side if that feels good for your back and sacrum. And then from here, you're just going to turn over to one side and lie on the belly. I'm going to turn around just so I can keep my face towards the screen here. Now we're going to come down into a back bending posture, this time with the belly on the floor. Let's take the forehead to the floor. And the arms, if you have a particular arm variation that you enjoy, feel free to take that. I'm just going to keep the forearms down, the elbows down, and the forehead to the floor. And just like the last posture, take a few breaths to come in. So each inhale, maybe lift the forehead just 1 centimeter off the floor and then back down. Each inhale, the head, the chest come a little bit higher. Each exhale all the way down. Release the muscles, feel the whole back of the body relax. And then inhale up again and exhaling down. As you lift, feel like your sternum, the front of the chest, is coming forward and up. Shoulder blades come together as you get a little higher. And then as you come down, let the shoulder blades fall apart from each other, back relaxed. And then each inhale, engage the whole chain of muscles from sacrum all the way up to the root of the skull and down. Good. Continue lifting up and down. Be attentive now to the position of the head as you come up and down. Perhaps when you come down, forehead to the floor. As you come up, let the chin move a little bit forward, the front of the neck lengthening just a bit, and down. So this is just a gentle exploration of supporting movement of the head and neck without extreme arching or extreme flexing of the head and neck. If it feels comfortable, begin to engage the legs as well. One leg or both legs. If that doesn't feel right for the back, just leave the legs on the floor. And wherever you are in the variation, see if it would feel comfortable to stay for a few breaths. Just again, feeling the whole length of the back side of the body engaged. Let the toes point if that's okay, if you don't get cramps in the feet or anything, so that the calf muscles are engaged. The buttocks, the low back, the mid back, shoulder blades together. Just feeling the strength of your back. As you feel ready, come down. Pause a moment. When you feel ready, just push back into a childlike posture. Let the back of the body, of the back side of the body lengthen. And then from here, we're just going to come up to a standing posture. So whatever way you like, come up to standing. So just a gentle way to sort of wake up the back side of the body before we come up, especially those of us in the cold areas, so Michigan and Sweden and Germany. A warm back gets you through winter very well. So before we stand, warming up the back, and now that we're here, take a moment to feel the feet in connection with the floor. See if you can be aware of all 3 points, the heel, the ball of the foot on the big toe side, the ball of the foot on the little toe side. Feeling of samastiti. And let's just extend a little bit the movement we were doing on the floor this time, the fingertips to the sternum. Look down as if you can see the fingertips. And then inhale, open, 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 open. Lift the chin, throat open. Exhale, fingertips to the sternum. Watch the fingertips. Inhale, open, open, open. Lift the chin and throat. So we open to the front. Exhale, shoulder blades apart, opening the back of the chest, opening the front of the chest. So the image in the yoga tradition, dukkha, Sanskrit word we translate often as suffering, comes from the form of the word or similar origins of the word that describe a contraction of the heart. So with this simple movement, we imagine you can make some space in the heart, even in challenging times. Open and stretch the front of the heart, and open and stretch the back of the heart. There's a beautiful image from the Theravada tradition of Mario Tenavaro, where in front of us is the future, the potential of life coming. We open, and behind us is everything that's already happened. And as we open the heart behind us, there's a letting go of what we don't need to carry. And as we open the front, there's an openness to the potential of life in front of us. So this isn't projecting an image of hope or an image of what should be. It's just open to the future and even open to the past, because neither one is within our control, but we will move through it. And if the arms and the strength and the stamina is there, let's keep the arms a little bit open here eventually. Unless you feel your heart space needs a little more stretching in the back or front, then feel free to continue. Otherwise, let's keep the arms open. So here with several people I know, including myself, just this opening of the arms, waking up the energy of the shoulders. This is position aligning and awakening the heart chakra. You can maybe take the index finger, the thumb, fingertips of the other three fingers moving away, opening the arms. At any time you can rest, let the arms soften and release. Otherwise, just hold for a moment and notice the strength and stamina required just to hold this. In the words of a Franciscan priest we came across in Assisi one day, when Mirka asked him if he would bless the Tao symbols that she had to give the people who were there with us doing yoga. And he said, "I'm sorry, I cannot bless the cross. The cross becomes blessed once you accept it." So this is making friends of the challenges of life in some way. Let the arms come down a moment. You can move, shake, just let that energy flow a little bit. Yeah. So just remember, muscles work in two ways. They contract and they release. That's it. So when we work, let them release, whatever way works for your body. For me, shaking is irritating for my shoulders. So just movements that are a little more controlled feel better. And then let's just notice a little bit the head and neck connection here. One more time, arms out, maybe this time shoulder height, palms up, looking over to one side and rotate, and looking to the other side and rotate. So gentle, gentle, don't push the neck. Just take a moment to pause as you come into the position. Notice what you feel, and then rotate again and pause again. Find a rhythm of breathing that supports this. You can change your breath as you rotate side to side, or you can inhale, look forward, and exhale, twist. Just be attentive to the flow of your breath. If it's interesting on one side, you can stay a little bit longer. The gift of an asymmetric sensation in the body is sometimes you can play with your practice more. So just take a little time on each side. Notice what's there, what feels interesting. When the palm is rotated down, the shoulder is internally rotated. You might feel more tension in the back side of the shoulder and neck. When the palm of the hand is up, the shoulder is externally rotated. You may feel more sensation in the front side of the neck, the front side of the shoulder as you turn the head away. And then let's integrate both sides here. And just take the arms up. And release the arms. Beautiful. See how your energy is? We have this nice German word, Kreislauf, I would call it in English, Sanskrit, the prana body. So if your prana feels strong and energetic, reach up, reach, 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 lift, stretch both sides, and then reach, 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 reach down. And do that a few times. If the prana body is a little softer, a little quieter, then the sweeping is much more like Qigong, where you're really just swimming through the sensation of energy and air. So feel where your energy is, lifting up or swimming through. And just move and breathe. And then slowly from this movement, we move into a deeper movement where we touch the floor now, all the way down, hands to the floor. And inhale all the way up. If the prana body is high and active, then just go back down. If the prana body is a little quieter, then take a breath when you come up. Let the hands come down. Maybe even hold the body. And then do another round. So we give ourselves permission to take more time, more movements if we need it. Or if we need to get a move on and stimulate and lift, then we just go from one side to the next. So see what feels right. So just a few times up and down. And then if it feels good to stay in that downward folded posture, stay there for a few breaths if you like. Otherwise, continue with a dynamic movement. If you're staying down in the posture, a few breaths, and you feel the tension through the legs, maybe give a little time. One leg can straighten a little more than the other. Let the neck be long, relax, the head just hanging off the top of the spine. Breathing deeply if you can, and gently if it feels better. And then from here all the way up. And just a moment with both hands on the belly and the chest. And let's just open up the sides of the body a bit more. We'll do a little more of that on the floor. So we'll stand here. Feet, again, find those two triangles, Samastiti, both feet engaged. Outsides of the feet, arch, stable on the insides of the feet. And then let's turn one foot out to the side. And let's bend that knee just a little bit of the outturned foot. Let's just take the hand to the knee. A nice line here from the shoulder to the foot. And as you inhale, lift this hand over the head and create like an arch here. So really lift the side of this rib cage up, up, up. So it's not so much about coming deep in the posture. It's really about arching over and creating a sense of lengthening along the side of the body. And then if we stay here a few breaths, maybe take this arm down, rotate the hand up so you have the shoulder externally rotated, looking down at that foot below. And then inhale, look forward, reach the hand over, create that nice arch on the side, and exhale, look down. So just try that movement a few times. Both feet, Samasthiti, balance. And what's great about this adaptation, you can go deeper if you're feeling a lot of strength in the core and the energy's high, or you can come a little higher and just arch a little bit and get the same amount of intensity of lengthening this one side of the body. Good. If you like, stay here in this extended position for a few breaths. Good. Moving always respectfully. Whatever point you need to come up, please do. Otherwise, stay here with me, reaching. Good. Beautiful. And then eventually we'll come up and pause for a moment. And then let's try the second side. And notice also, like for me in the winter practices, these standing sequences become very sweaty very quickly, more in the winter. I'm calling it the sauna effect. I know the Swedes are big fans of saunas too, and the Germans as well. A little bit of heating comes more easily to me in the winter. So take the hand down, second side, arching as you reach over, and then looking down, rotating the shoulders, you come down, or something like that. So those of you who have your practice, do what feels right, just lengthen this side so we can come back to it a little bit later and feel the results of that. Good. Breathing, equal balance on both feet. And then at some point, a few breaths, if you can, stay in the posture, whatever version of the posture feels best for you. And notice it may be a different version on one side versus the other. So today for me, having the hand back towards the hip as I look down is a little more useful for my neck and shoulders on this side. And on the other side, it was more important for me to feel more lengthening along the hip. So just notice if your body feels symmetric or if it feels better to do something different on this side. And then when you feel like you complete, come back to some symmetric standing position for just a moment. We'll move down to Chakravarkasana, hands and knees. Just a few breaths here. So exhale or inhale, whichever direction you like to breathe. You're going to come up, and then with the other side of the breath, you're going to move back, heels, hips together, and inhale all the way up. So whatever way you're practicing this posture, just feel the back side of the body lengthen as you move back, the front side of the body lengthening a little bit as you come forward. Let the shoulders be soft. The neck can let go of tension as you move back. So engaging the erector muscles along the spine as you come up and letting them lengthen from skull to sacrum as you go back. From here, if you like, we can also do a little bit of downward facing dog. Just working that back line a little bit more. So you can inhale, lift up, or exhale, lift up, inhale, come down. And either come into child's pose or come back into downward facing dog. Just a few breaths. If you enjoy this posture, downward facing dog, stay there a few breaths. So for those of us who carry tension in the legs or calves or feet, this can be a useful posture to work with. Maybe lengthening one leg versus the other leg. Or if there's a lot of mobility there in the legs, both legs straight, heels to the floor. Keep the back long, hands strong. And then at some point, back to the hands and knees. And let's lie back down on the back. So here we are again, where we started from. Let's activate a little bit, hip flexors and hips. Let's just do one leg at a time. So take both hands next to the body. Take one knee up so the foot comes away. Inhale, let's lift the heel towards the ceiling, the hands overhead. And exhale, bend the knee, hands down. And continue, inhale. And exhaling, moving with the rhythm of your own breath. Feeling the muscles in the front side of the leg, hip flexors engage and release. Waking up the front side of the body from the hip to the foot. And then eventually stay here with the foot up. Few breaths here, flexing the foot, toes coming towards the face. Really feeling this whole front side of the leg engaged and active. Depending on what's happening in the leg, I always like to say you can have a little bit of violent shaking, just a little bit. Feel the strength of the leg. If you can, stay a little bit longer and then begin to move the foot. Just noticing that relationship, lower leg, ankle, foot. And then perhaps if it's good for your hip, good for your back and body, just be mindful here. Take that heel towards the floor just a bit, maybe only halfway down for some of us and all the way up. So just be respectful of where your body is, just a little bit down and up. For those of you who've been working, strengthening this part of the body, all the way down and all the way up might feel good. Whatever we're doing, just looking for a little bit of heating, activation, warmth in the hip flexor, the quads. Just a few repetitions, enough to really feel those muscles working. When you feel them working, just release the leg all the way to the floor. Pause for a moment and wait. And then as you feel ready, we're going to switch legs. So the other foot comes to the floor, other knee comes towards your body, and just a few rounds, heel towards the ceiling, hands down. Good. And back down, good. Just a few times. This is a good posture working with the cameras, because even if I can't see you on the floor, I see feet. That's good. Good. And again, just notice how this side moves compared to the other side. Asymmetries in the feet, ankles, hips are always interesting. My 13-year-old daughter wants to start exploring this a little bit. because she's noticing already some asymmetries. And again, just like last time, staying for a few breaths, feeling the strength of the front side of the leg. And again, going with my pace only as it serves you. So feeling the front side of the leg activating. To feel that activation even from the ankle all the way to the hip flexor, and then begin to move the foot, activating those small muscles near the ankle, feet, and point and flex side to side or circles, whatever serves your body best. And then if it feels comfortable for the whole leg, keep the leg straight, move the heel towards the floor at whatever level supports you. Can go from just 10% down to all the way down, but just make sure the back stays nice and solid on the floor. The idea is just to wake up, activate hip flexors, and really the whole pelvic floor. And when you start to feel that heat, that activation, then you can just release it, let the circulation come. Pause a moment. We're going to take both arms to the side. We'll do a gentle twisting, so you can do either with the feet on the floor, wider than the hips, side to side. So for some of us, this is a really nice variation that feels good with the knees and the hips. And for some of us, the variation with the knees up and the feet off the floor feels a little bit nicer, the different part of the back it serves. So wherever you are, just take a breath and exhale, twist to one side, come up and twist to the other side. If you have the knees up, imagine you're trying to bring the knees towards the elbow of the arm that's stretched out. So the knees stay close to the body. Moving with your breath. And then eventually, as you like, maybe stay on one side a little bit longer. A few breaths on one side and a few breaths on the second side. Just make sure you spend time on both sides. Doesn't have to be symmetric. One side might need a little more time. And then from here, we're gonna roll over onto the side and come to sitting. Do a couple of seated postures before we rest. So some version of Paschimottanasana. So this is the posture with legs in front. And Sandra, I think when we worked together before, I think a cushion under the hips was helpful in this posture. So if you're not already trying that, maybe try that. Keep the legs bent or legs straight and just come down. Let the back of the spine lengthen. And then as you inhale, first lift the head, the shoulders, mid back, low back, nice straight spine as you come up. And if you can't have the spine lengthened as you come up, maybe lift up the hips with a cushion or a pillow, or bend the knees a little bit more. And as you come down, lower belly, chest, shoulders, head, and all the way up. Hands just sliding on the floor, nice and gentle. Lower belly, chest, shoulders, head, and all the way up. Next time you come up, let's take one leg folded in. So it's a little different than Janu Shirshasana with one leg forward and one leg bent. We're going to have the legs in this orientation and then take the straight leg out to the side. And then just turn your chest towards that outstretched leg. And just come forward as much as your body allows. So use the hands to support the weight. So for some of us, it's just coming down a few inches. And those who can come a little bit closer to the leg, come closer to the leg, but see if you can keep the shoulders the same distance from the floor. So the heart is moving towards the knee. So that's an asymmetric lengthening of the back side of the body. Just staying a few breaths. And then we'll come up, turn the body forward. So now this shoulder is over the outstretched leg. So for some of us, it might be more useful to have this knee bent. So I'll just demonstrate a couple of different variations. So leaning over, this shoulder over this knee, this shoulder all in one line and reaching over. So this is like a variation of that standing side stretch we did. You can also do this with a straight leg, but don't lose that posture. So keep the shoulder over the leg. This hand can come down. You can even rest the head on the hand if that feels nice. You can reach this arm over. So whatever version of this posture, the intention is to lengthen this side of the body. One of the downsides of this medium is the image. So you're all seeing an image of me and my body, which may not look the same as you and your body. But the experience here is not to recreate what I'm doing, but to look for this sensation of lengthening through the top side. So because of the hypermobility of my body, I come a little deeper into the floor than most people I've worked with. And for me, it's just the way to access that part of my body. Good. As you complete, come out of the posture, sit for a moment in some sort of forward sitting position. And then we'll switch sides. So the other leg comes out. And before we do the side stretch, we turn the chest towards the outstretched leg and come down at whatever level we come down towards the knee, towards the leg. And come all the way up as you feel ready. Now aligning the shoulder over that leg and coming in whatever way you can. So now you're doing a side stretch over that leg that's maybe bent or straight. And coming into whatever variation of this posture works best for your body. Lengthening on one side. Notice where you feel resistance, if anywhere. Is it more towards the hip, more the ribs, more the shoulder? And then as you complete, come again to a forward facing posture. You can either keep the legs in some kind of crossed position or keep the legs in front of you and just let the body come forward a bit. Let the spine move down, let the neck relax, the head hang, even if it's just a little bit of a bend. And then from here, come back towards the floor, lying on the back, or I should say lying down. So some version of a resting posture. So before we move into a version of Shavasana, just take a moment and notice your body. Are there any more movements that might help the body rest and release? So if there's any residual tightness we sometimes can create with these movements, feel free to do whatever you need to do, and then find some position that allows you to just rest and feel the body for a few minutes. It can be on the back, it can be with a blanket, it can be on the side or the belly. Just make sure you feel supported in your body. As much as possible, let the body just rest and let go of doing anything in particular. Just notice where the mind goes, if it goes anywhere but here. So peace in my body, peace in my thoughts. The first time we recite that mantra towards the beginning of practice, it's more of a affirmation and openness to the possibility. And now it's just an exploration of body, emotions, and thoughts, allowing them to sink towards the earth. And settle down. Just remembering you have no obligation to be at peace in any moment. You have no obligation to be any way other than how you are in this moment. This is a moment of watching, of being witness to the story of your life. A moment of letting go the idea that you should know how it is or how it could be. And let that witnessing be enough. And then give yourself the space to reawaken the attention and sensations in the body, breath, and in your own way and own time, come back to sitting. And once we find that space of sitting, just witness a little longer. One of the strategies in the practices that we're doing at this time is there's a little less of lying and resting, which is an important practice. But in these sequences, I want to stimulate the calm energy of the body and mind body and keep that lifted energy in the field of attention a little bit. Deep resting can shift that to a very different place, which is a beautiful place, especially in winter. But this is a little bit of a different intention. So those of you who practice deep resting, just notice the difference between these different kinds of energies. They're different tools in the practice. So here the resting Shavasana is a little bit shorter so that we cultivate and reside in that space of uplifted energy. As you sit longer, just notice the quality of thoughts and emotions that arise and recede, like waves crashing on the shoreline. And then for a moment, bring the palms of the hands together. Again, just using the physiology of the awakefulness of the many nerves in the fingertips to hold our attention for a moment. Notice what happens when we are able to show up for ourselves. And the capacity for us to practice together is the result of that effort and that energy for you to show up. I may guide something, but the effort is all yours. I thank you for that effort and for bringing that energy to me so that I may help bring it back to you. May you have an experience of joy this week that can become a golden light for future uplift. Thank you.